we have given the example of control chart for variables. Okay. In the previous class, we gave the example of control chart for variables. How to draw the control chart, the X bar and R chart we have shown. And there was also a question related to comparing the allowable spread with actual process spread. Okay. And we have seen that the allowable spread you can find from the dimension of the given shaft diameter, 23.75 plus minus 0.1. That means it is the range is 23.65 to 23.85. So 0.2 millimeter. Okay, this is actually your allowable spread. And what is the process spread? Process spread is given by 6 into sigma population. And you have earlier calculated. You can put the value of sigma population here, and you can find out the value of Cp, and you can also calculate. That means this is given by this ratio, the process capability, and you compare which one is greater. Is your process spread is greater, or is the allowable spread is greater? Okay. We always want Cp or process capability. This value will be greater than 1. Okay. What does it mean? It means the upper specification limit minus lower specification limit. That means the allowable process spread which was given by here, this allowable process spread will be greater than this actual process spread. We always want that. So only in that case Cp will be greater than 1, because when Cp will be greater than 1, when the numerator will be greater than the denominator. So numerator is the allowable process spread. So the allowable process spread has to be greater than the actual process spread. This is the meaning of Cp greater than 1. Okay. Because if this does not happen, that means if your allowable, if your actual process spread becomes greater than the allowable process spread, then anyway the process is not capable to meet the specific requirements. You can very easily understand. If suppose your allowable process spread, if you're suppose the actual process spread, though it represents the sample, but we are considering population, but it is easier to understand like this. Your actual this is your actual process spread. Now, if your allowable process spread is greater than your actual process spread, then by no way it will meet your process is capable to meet the requirements provided by the customer. So there will be a lot of data points which will be beyond the specific limits or the tolerance limits. Okay, so that's why Cp is always desired to be greater than 1. But interesting to note that if Cp is less than 1, then it does not guarantee that your process.
Sir, your voice is breaking, sir.
Hello. I think because of internet connection, the voice is breaking, but you don't get worried, because I will upload all these videos on the YouTube, and I will provide you the link. There is no problem.
Sir, there is background noises, sir. Sound of wind.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So I have not most probably muted the others. So I am muting the others. Yes, mute all. Okay. So what happens that if CP is greater than 1, then it's okay. But if CP, so we always want that CP should be greater than 1, not CP is less than 1. But interesting to note that if CP is greater than 1, if CP is less than 1, then definitely the process is incapable to meet the specific requirements. But if CP is greater than 1, then it does not guarantee that a particular process falls within specification limits. Why? Because CP does not capture the scenario of central tendency of the data. I have previously expressed when I discussed the Taguchi's robust design, that what is actually the meaning of central tendency of the data. Okay, we have I have told that the television set that used to be manufactured in Japan plant, okay, so there they had some products beyond the tolerance limit or the specification limits, but most of the products they used to manufacture are they're around the mean value for a particular variable. Okay, so that is also very important. You just notice this particular diagram. Suppose this is your space. I can show you some another diagram that will be clear where specification limits are provided. Suppose you have a look at this picture. Though this is I am talking not about sample. This diagram is for sample, but I am talking about population. But you just think that this diagram is for population. Okay, that will be easier for you to understand. Suppose this is the specification upper specification limit, this is your lower specification limit. Okay, now suppose you can see that your control limits, okay, so that means your allowable actual process spread, it is within the specification limits domain or within the allowable process limit, but you do not know that the central tendency of this, that means it may happen that this particular span, it is located somewhere here, or this particular span, it is located somewhere here in this region. Okay, so in that case what will happen, that uh, many of data points you will find which are beyond the specification limits. Okay, because you don't know about the central tendency of the data. Okay, or where actually your uh, target is located. Okay, whether if it I mean the mu or the mean value is located. Okay, so that is a problem. So this is that's why you will be getting one particular index which is known as CPK. This is known as process capability index. Okay, so process capability, the formula is, the first we calculate CPU. It is the process capability based on the upper specification limit. Then we calculate CPL, which is given by x bar minus LSL divided by 3 sigma. This is the process capability based on the lower specification limit. And then we calculate CPK, which is minimum of CPU and CPL. And from the formula, you can easily understand that this is USL minus X bar. X bar means the average or the mean value. So it basically calculates, these are actually used to identify which one is minimum. Okay, these two things are identified. So this actually represents that where the process is centered. Okay, this represents where the process is centered. So that's why it it is capable to by judging the CPK, you can understand that how much the process is capable to meet the specific requirements as provided by the customers. Okay, and you can also I have told you that I will not discuss this particular module of Six Sigma, and it is your duty to study Six Sigma, and there you will find that different this also you will find that different for different specification uh, different conditions of CP and CPK are provided here. Okay, different conditions of CP and CPK are provided here, and they have discussed about the process. Okay, so you will have to go through this. Okay, this is very easy. In fact, this is nothing is too difficult. So uh, now I will be discussing another very interesting thing. That is, I will discuss the group control chart. Okay, I will discuss the group control chart. What is group control chart? So first, take a look at the definition and some characteristics of group control chart. So a group control chart is one in which number of subgroups from different sources, which is homogeneous, are combined in a single simplified chart. Different subgroups may come from different shifts, different identical machines or different operators. In such cases, group control chart helps to differentiate the various subgroup sources which are plotted on the same chart, provided all the subgroup sources must be aiming at the same value of the measured quality characteristics. The various subgroup sources should have approximately same dispersion of average. For example, if these are 5 machines operating in parallel and 3 of these are able to hold much closer tolerances than the other 2, the group chart will not be appropriate. Okay. So, suppose you just that idea is not very clear, but I am making the idea very clear about the group control chart. Suppose you have seen this example of X bar and R chart in the previous case. Okay. So how many lathe machine you have used? You have used only one lathe. Okay. For 8 consecutive days, and each day you have operated 6 diameters. Okay, you have machined actually 6 diameters. and you have plotted your X bar and R chart to find out that whether in any day or each day, whether your data points are going beyond the control limits or not, that you have checked through your X bar chart or R chart or control chart in this case. But suppose instead of this data, or instead of only one lathe machine, suppose you are using 3 different lathe machines in 3 different shifts of a particular day. At each day you are using those machines 8 consecutive days. Okay, so in that case what will happen? This is a very interesting thing. So in that case, how you will be plotting the group, how you will plot the control chart? Okay, so in that case, basically our intention is to check whether the some particular machine is going out of control or not. It's not just about the data of the individual data, it's about whether the machine is going beyond the control limits or not. Okay, so we will take a look at an example where you will have, instead of one lathe machine, you will have 3 lathe machines. You will get similar sort of data, and instead of these 6 subgroups, okay, instead of these 6 subgroups, you will have only subgroup number, instead of small n is equal to 6, which is your subgroup size, you will have only 2 subgroup size. That means your small n will be 2. That means you will be operating only, suppose, 2 shafts, okay, instead of 6 shafts. So then what will be the case? Then your problem will look like this, or you can say this. You can see that you are using 1, 2, 3 different machines you are using. Okay, 1, 2, 3, that means 3 different lathes. Okay, you are using, and these one thing I have told me incorrectly, that is you are not using those 3 machines for 3 different shifts. You are using those 3 machines for all the shifts. Okay, suppose this is shift number 1, you are using all those 3 lathes. This is shift number 2, you are using all those the lathes you are using, and this is your shift number 3, you are using all those lathe machines. Okay, and instead of the 6 part processing, that means 6 shaft processing, you are using only 2 shafts, or you are dealing with only 2 parts. Okay, so what is happening here? You can see, you can take, or you can find out the average of these 2 parts for each cases. Okay, for example, for 933 and 897, the average is 915. Okay, and you will be also calculating the ranges. Ranges means since here only two parts are there, so that's why just you subtract 897 from 933, you will be getting this range 36. But instead of that, if you have more than two parts, suppose you have six parts, just like the previous problem, then what will happen? Then in that case, you will have to subtract the least value from the highest value to get the range. Okay. So here also, then you will be doing also the same thing. You will be doing here also the same thing. You will be doing. Okay.
Sir,
Yes. Yes.
so what is the meaning of subgroups and MC, sir?
MC means the machine number. For example, lathe. You are using, this is first lathe, this is second lathe, this is third lathe. Okay. Suppose here, instead of this, here you are using, this is first lathe. Okay. This is the total dimension is this data are given for first lathe. Now you say that another row is there, another 6 rows are there for the second lathe. Then another rows are there, another 6 rows are there, that is for third lathe. So you are using different lathe machines, suppose, then you are getting these numbers 1 2 3, these are machine numbers. And subgroup means it is shift basically in this case. For example, suppose 1 2 3, all these three machines are using for first shift, these three machines you are using for second shift, these three machines you are using for third shift, like that. Okay. So after calculating all the average values and all the ranges, your duty is to find out the highest value and the lowest value for the averages and the ranges for each subgroup or each shift. Okay. Why? Because the other values, that means which values lie within the highest or lowest, here in when you will be plotting these charts, you will be plotting only the highest and lowest values, but all the other values that will automatically come within that limit. So if your highest value and lowest value is within the control limit, then there is then it is not required to show all these values. But if your highest value and lowest value goes beyond the control limits, then you need to show it, because there might be some other points which are beyond the control limits. You might be not understanding or realizing the fact. So you try to see this. So how they have plotted this data, then you will be able to understand. Suppose here they have plotted all this data, X bar chart and R chart. This is your X bar chart and this is your R chart. Now, how this is being represented? Along X-axis, okay, along X-axis, they are actually representing all the shifts. Okay, this is for example here shift number 1, this is shift number 2, this is shift number 3 for first day. I have given only the example of the first day, but actually in the problem given in the book Statistical Quality Control of Mahajan, M. Mahajan, they have given the data for 2 days or 3 days they have given the date that you will find more data are there. So that's why there are more points you are finding. Okay, so what does it mean? This data, that means this particular point, this x-axis, it represents the number of consecutive shifts. For example, this is your first shift, this is your second shift, this is your third shift of the first day. Then again, in the second day, this is the first shift, this is the second shift of the second day, this is the third shift of the second day. Because usually in each day, when you will be working in industry, you will see that in each day there are usually 3 shifts. Okay, so along x-axis you are representing the shifts, and along y-axis you are representing the values of your x bar. Okay, now here one means you are plotting the data for the first machine. Okay, first machine, because this is the lowest data, you are only plotting the lowest data. Okay, and you are only plotting the lowest data and the highest data. Highest data is 926, you are plotting here 926. They have actually converted this value to some particular thing, that's why they have represented here 15.93, 15.91. they have converted it to some values, but you don't need to convert it in some values. Whatever is given there, you just directly plot those values, 915, 926 or 900, taking a suitable scale. Okay, so you plot these things. Now you notice for the second subgroup, that means for the second shift, the highest value is 902 and the lowest value is 870. So they have plotted the highest value, which is your this is your highest value. Highest value is given by the 902. Okay, so this is your highest value, and I have written here 2, here 3. What does it mean? It means that your second machine is providing the highest value, and here I have written 1. Why 1? Because the first machine is providing you the lowest value. Similarly, for the third shift, the first machine is providing you the highest value of the x bar, and the third machine is providing the lowest value of the x bar. Okay. So in this way, you will be completing the diagram. If you have more number of data, they have up to 6 subgroups they have given. That means they have taken the data for 2 consecutive days. Okay, so that all those things they have plotted here. And the same thing will be performed also for the R chart. Okay, the highest value and the lowest value you will be taking, and you will be plotting here based on your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means based on your shift or the subgroup numbers. Okay. Now, interesting to note that here they have determined the upper control, and you will be using the same formula which you have used for x bar and r bar. Okay, the same formula you will be using to calculate your the upper control limit or the lower control limit. Now, interesting to note that why you are only taking care of your highest value and lowest value, not this value 918, suppose, which lies in between, because you can see that here the 916, that means which belongs to the second machine, that value will lie here, okay, within this highest value and lowest value. So if your highest value and lowest value are within control limit, then you don't need to show it, because you can understand that for the first shift your process is within control. Now it is going to be ended on Zoom, so you can rejoin. So I would like to request you to rejoin, because now it is just few seconds left. So you can please rejoin on Zoom. So this is so that particular data will lie somewhere here. So the same thing is also applicable for the second shift or the second subgroup. Suppose 901, this is the middle value which has been provided for the third machine. So 901 will lie somewhere here, okay, for the second subgroup or for the second shift. So you don't need to show it, just the highest value and the lowest value will suffice. But if your data points are beyond this control limit, then there is no guarantee that the other data will be lying in between these control limits. Suppose some data, your data point is not here, your data point is somewhere here, okay, then some point may be here, okay, which will be also lying beyond the control limit. So if your highest data point or the lowest data point is beyond the control limit, then you need to show all the data points you need to show. Okay. And another thing to be noted, that there are some restrictions of using this particular chart, okay, because this is only applicable where for similar sort of machines usually it is applicable, okay, and similar sort of tolerances, okay, but if the machines are very different type, then usually you cannot use this kind of charts, you cannot use, okay. So this is very interesting thing to note. And why it is that one last important question is why it is named as group control chart, because here you are basically representing the through the control chart, you are basically representing the groups. You are trying to understand that whether any group value lies beyond the control limit or not that you try to say. Group means here simply called machine. Suppose in this example, this is one group, okay, this data, these 6 rows, this is one group. Now underneath it, if you have another 6 rows for another lathe machine, then that will form one group. Then if you have another 6 rows underneath that for another 3 machines, then you will form another group. And not necessarily that all that cases you will have same subgroup size. That means the 6 subgroup size will have to be there for all the 3 machines. It's not necessarily. In some cases it may be 4. You will just simply take the averages of 4. In some cases it may be 3. You can take simply the averages of 3. Okay, and you will be trying to understand that, and the average values you are taking for this. Then if there are another 6 rows, then or 5 rows, you will be taking the averages of 5. Then if there are another 3 rows, you will be taking the averages of those 3 for the third machine. And you will be plotting those X bar values here. Those X bar values you will be plotting here to identify this is what this data point represents. This data point represents these averages, the group averages for a particular machine. Okay, so these values they are representing, and you will be trying to say whether this average value is going beyond the control limit or not. Okay, just like you have done in the previous case. Okay, just like you have done in the previous case. Those values here, you have plotted all those X bar values you have plotted. Here also you are plotting the X bar values. That's why it is named as X bar chart. Okay. So now you will be one important thing you need to know, that what is the difference between defects and defective. An item is said to be defective if it fails to conform to the specification in any of the characteristics. Each characteristics that does not meet the specifications is a defect. An item is defective if it contains at least one defect. For example, if a casting contains undesirable hard spot, blowholes, etc., the casting is defective, and the hard spots, blowholes, etc., which makes the casting defective, are the defects. Okay, so so the defect is defined as if you get some data point which is beyond your specification limit, so that will be treated as defect. Okay, and if any item has got at least one defect, then it will be treated as a defective item. And it is to be noted that one item or one product may have several number of defects. Okay, so suppose two defective items may have 7 defects. Okay, so that is the concept of defect and defectives. So why I am saying this? Because the reason is next we will discuss about control chart for attributes. We have discussed earlier the control chart for variables. Now in the next class we will be discussing the control chart for attributes. Okay, now it's less than 1 minute, so I am going to stop my recording.